Welcome to our Middle East briefing program. Today, we dive into the chaos along the Israel-Lebanon border, where 9 months of relentless conflict have left entire communities in ruins and forced tens of thousands from their homes. The devastation is staggering, with over 7,000 cross-border attacks recorded, highlighting the severe humanitarian crisis unfolding in the region. Next, we turn our attention to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to the U.S., a trip laden with diplomatic challenges. With President Biden's decision not to seek re-election casting a shadow, Netanyahu faces the delicate task of mending strained relations with Washington while navigating the pressures of the ongoing Gaza conflict. His actions and decisions during this visit could have significant implications for Israel's future ties with its most crucial ally. Finally, the situation in Gaza remains dire as the Israeli military orders new evacuations in Khan Yunis. The bombardment has resulted in numerous casualties, with hospitals overwhelmed by the influx of injured civilians. The humanitarian crisis deepens as aid workers struggle to provide essential supplies amid the chaos. Please stay tuned for detailed coverage of these stories and more. BBC. The ongoing conflict between Hezbollah and Israel has left a trail of devastation along the Israel-Lebanon border, displacing entire communities and causing extensive damage to buildings and land. The conflict, which began with Hezbollah's rocket fire in solidarity with Palestinians following the outbreak of the Israel-Gaza war, has resulted in over 7,000 cross-border attacks. The UN reports that more than 90,000 people in Lebanon and 60,000 in Israel have been forced from their homes, with significant casualties on both sides. Satellite imagery and military activity records reveal that more than 60% of Lebanese border communities have been damaged, with towns like Ida el-Shab, Kfar Kila, and Blida among the hardest hit. The destruction has not only affected buildings but also vast areas of land, with wildfires burning approximately 55 square kilometers in Israel and the Golan Heights, and 40 square kilometers in Lebanon. The damage has been exacerbated by the use of unguided weapons and white phosphorus, leading to widespread agricultural and environmental destruction. BBC. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to the U.S. comes amid significant pressure to end the Gaza war, both from within Israel and the U.S. administration. The trip, which includes a meeting with President Joe Biden and an address to Congress, is seen as an opportunity for Netanyahu to reset relations with Washington and reassure Israelis of their alliance with the U.S. However, Biden's decision not to seek re-election has added political uncertainty to the visit. Protests in Israel have demanded that Netanyahu focus on a ceasefire deal with Hamas rather than travel to the U.S. The Prime Minister has faced criticism for his handling of the war and for bowing to pressure from far-right cabinet ministers. Biden, a longtime supporter of Israel, has grown frustrated with Netanyahu's hardline approach and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Despite the political turbulence, Netanyahu aims to use the visit to strengthen bipartisan support in the U.S. and address concerns about Iran and regional security. New York Times. The Israeli military has ordered a new evacuation in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza, amid ongoing bombardments that have killed dozens and wounded hundreds. The military claims Hamas is regrouping in the area and using parts of a designated humanitarian zone to launch rockets at Israel. Local health officials report that 70 bodies have been brought to Nasser Hospital, with at least 200 wounded, though these figures are unverified. The hospital is overwhelmed, lacking essential supplies to treat the influx of injured civilians. The situation is dire, with many injuries requiring amputations and others suffering severe burns. The military's actions have intensified the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, as residents face relentless attacks and limited access to medical care. The Palestine Red Crescent has also reported numerous casualties, highlighting the severe impact of the ongoing conflict on the civilian population. Associated Press. Javier Aguirre has been appointed as the head coach of Mexico's national soccer team for the third time, replacing Jaime Lozano. Rafael Marquez, a former player who has competed in 5 World Cups for Mexico and coached Barcelona's reserve team, will serve as Aguirre's main assistant. Aguirre previously led Mexico to the round of 16 in the 2002 and 2010 World Cups and has a distinguished career coaching in Europe, including stints with Atlético de Madrid and Mallorca. Duilio Divino, the director of national teams, highlighted Aguirre's extensive experience and familiarity with national team processes. Marquez is expected to take over as head coach for the 2030 World Cup. Aguirre's first matches will be friendlies against New Zealand and Canada in September. Washington Post. Vice President Kamala Harris has opted not to preside over the Senate chamber during Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address to Congress, amid tensions over Israel's handling of the war in Gaza. Harris will, however, meet with Netanyahu at another point during his visit. The situation underscores the deep divisions among Democrats regarding the conflict, with many liberal lawmakers planning to boycott Netanyahu's speech. Republicans, on the other hand, have rallied in support of Netanyahu, with Speaker Mike Johnson threatening to arrest anyone who disrupts the event. The Biden administration has tried to distance itself from Netanyahu's visit, with President Biden initially planning to be in Texas during the speech. Harris, who has previously questioned Israel's tactics in Gaza, faces scrutiny as she navigates this contentious issue while seeking the presidential nomination. Al Jazeera. President Joe Biden's legacy is increasingly being defined by the ongoing conflict in Gaza, with Palestinian rights advocates condemning his unwavering support for Israel. Despite domestic praise from Democratic politicians, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza has led to widespread criticism. Abed Ayoub, executive director of the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, labeled Biden as Genocide Joe due to the high civilian casualties and displacement in Gaza. Biden's administration has provided substantial military and diplomatic support to Israel, including continuous arms transfers and vetoing UN Security Council proposals for a ceasefire. Critics argue that Biden's policies and rhetoric have been dismissive of Palestinian suffering, leading to a significant backlash from progressives and human rights groups. As Biden steps down from the presidential race, his handling of the Gaza conflict is expected to overshadow his domestic achievements and shape his historical legacy. The Independent. Olympic diver Tom Daley recently gave his TikTok followers a first-hand look at the cardboard beds in the Paris 2024 Olympic Village, showcasing their surprising sturdiness. Daley, who is 30, demonstrated the eco-friendly beds by knocking on the headboard and jumping on them, assuring viewers of their durability. The beds, introduced during the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, faced initial skepticism but have since been praised by athletes for their comfort and sustainability. Olympic organizers emphasized that the beds symbolize a commitment to minimal environmental impact rather than being anti-sex measures. This year's Olympic Village will also see the distribution of 300,000 condoms, reflecting the ongoing efforts to promote safe practices among athletes. The Independent. In a significant political shift, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries expressed optimism following President Joe Biden's decision to step down, allowing Vice President Kamala Harris to take the spotlight. This transition aims to rejuvenate the Democratic Party's focus on defeating Donald Trump. Jeffries underscored the need for Biden to address pressing issues such as Middle East politics, government spending, and the debt limit before his term ends on January 20. Biden's potential actions, including tough negotiations with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and veto threats against harmful spending bills, could pave the way for a smoother campaign trail for Harris. Additionally, resolving tax credit packages could bolster Harris's standing, demonstrating Biden's unique ability to navigate complex political landscapes. Associated Press. Catherine Levy, a Massachusetts woman, was sentenced to 3 years of probation for making a false bomb threat at Boston Children's Hospital during a period of intense harassment over its transgender youth surgical program. Levy, who initially denied the accusation, later admitted to making the threat after FBI agents presented phone records. The hospital, which launched the first pediatric and adolescent transgender health program in the U.S., became a target for far-right social media accounts and news outlets. The bomb threat led to a hospital lockdown, although no explosives were found. This incident highlights the broader issue of threats against medical institutions providing care for transgender youth, prompting increased security measures nationwide. CNN. Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign team has launched a vigorous outreach initiative targeting youth grassroots organizations following President Joe Biden's announcement of his withdrawal from the race. Voters of Tomorrow, a youth voting grassroots organization, reported engaging with Harris's campaign shortly after Biden's announcement, highlighting Harris's commitment to the youth vote. Santiago Mayer, the group's executive director, expressed enthusiasm about mobilizing young voters, emphasizing the high stakes of the upcoming election and the historic potential of electing the first woman president. Key campaign staff, including Eve Levinson, the National Youth Engagement Director, are set to attend the Voters of Tomorrow Summit in Atlanta, where hundreds of youth activists and grassroots organizations will discuss the election. Youth organizers have noted a surge of energy among Democrats regarding Harris's nomination. CNN's polls indicate Harris performs better among young voters than Biden but still falls short of the support levels seen in recent Democratic presidential candidates. Katie Gates, president of the College Democrats of Georgia, remarked on the excitement among young people about the prospect of a woman president. Gen Z for Change, formerly TikTok for Biden, which has been critical of Biden but now endorses Harris, also reported outreach from her campaign. Claire Simon, the group's communications director, sees Harris's campaign as an opportunity to push progressive policies that resonate with young voters. Democratic youth organizations and progressive activists have been leveraging social media to present Harris in a relatable light. Sohali Vagela, National Director of Communications for the College Democrats of America, emphasized the importance of digital engagement and plans to collaborate closely with Harris's team to enhance their social media presence. Harris has a history of engaging with social media influencers, which played a significant role during the 2022 midterm elections. As the campaign prepares for the Democratic National Convention, they plan to work with content creators who will have access to the event. CNN's Jennifer Agiesta contributed to this report. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.